As someone that lived in the same area for my whole life, I never imagined that I would be living in Charleston, the city where we got married, a city with such rich history, and then one that's minutes from the beach. For me, retiring early didn't seem real. But when Jared came to me 9 years ago with that vision, after a little back and forth, I saw that end goal and I trusted his plan for our family. He's the visionary, I'm the creative counterpart, and my passion is raising our children and giving them a unique school experience.
So my dream was born 9 years ago when I first had the vision of retiring early to truly live the life that we wanted to live. Then 5 years ago we had our first child, Michaela, and people started telling us very often somehow that to really enjoy the time that we had with our kids when they're little, and that they would do literally anything to get that time back. Though most people would shrug off that advice, it really lit a fire under me to continue making the short-term sacrifices in order to have a lifetime of freedom for my wife, Amber, and our 3 young children. Hey guys, it's Jared and Amber.
So Jared is from New York and I'm from North Carolina. At the ages of 38 and 35, we achieved FIRE and live in Charleston, South Carolina. FIRE is an acronym that stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Jared and I met in our early 20s after we both graduated from college. We actually met through MySpace, if any of you remember that, which is similar to Facebook. Back then it was like not sketchy.
Yeah, I checked that out. That actually still exists. It's a website.
Wow. Makes me feel old.
Yeah.
But it started with Jared sending me a message through that website. And a month later, I responded and we ended up talking for 3 hours, which neither one of us really liked talking on the phone, but we did.
That's true.
And the rest is history. When we met, I actually was working for a marketing company in NASCAR, and then I ended up leaving that job shortly thereafter and started my teaching career. And we were both living at home and driving our cars that we've had since high school.
My dad gave me some great advice early on in life. He said, regardless of how much money you make in life, live within your means and don't increase your cost of living as your income increases. This is the kind of advice that's easy to give, hard to follow, but luckily I ended up following it and it made all the difference for us. I'm also one of 5 kids, so money was pretty tight growing up. Paying the bills and keeping the debt under control was a daily challenge for my parents, and we could see the stress and the frustration involved at times just as kids witnessing that for my parents to go through it. My parents had to get pretty creative with finding a house that had enough bedrooms for all of us. And they always tried to make it so we each had our own room. And this is not just one, but at least 2 houses. I can think of a room where my sister had that was actually really a closet. That my parents renovated and made it into another bedroom. So like my older sister always had some random room in the house that used to be a closet or some kind of crazy place, and my parents made it work. And it was cool though, because most of the time we had our own rooms or we shared, and it was kind of a different kind of setup. They also during this process slow flipped houses that we were living in. They delivered newspapers, magazines, and they did that door to door just to make ends meet. They also owned a small business called Lots of Things, and they sold printed t-shirts, hats, furniture, bicycles, toys, and well, lots of different things, which I think is where they got the name from. But it was like a huge garage sale with everything had to be moved from inside the building outside, and it was all just outside when people would drive past, and it was open. You guys were
part of that.
Yeah, and we used to actually carry the furniture as young children outside and bikes, and we would like go to garage sales and fix them up. It was actually pretty cool, but it was open like all weekends. So during the week, my dad would do his 9 to 5, and then on the weekends, they would do
in the store.
Yeah, we called it the store or lots of things. And like Amber said, the cool thing about that is that in all these different activities, the newspaper route and the slow flipping of the houses, there's all kinds of pictures that we have of like all 5 of us kids working with my parents to do these things. So it really taught us how to work hard, the value of money, and also how to be entrepreneurs.
Growing up, my mom was a saver, and she taught me the value of putting back money and not spending it frivolously. My dad taught me the value of never giving up. I remember before every game that I played, he would always give me a pep talk. He would send me a text message, and he would share the Jimmy Valvano SB speech, which if you guys don't know that, he always just says, never give up, never, ever, ever give up. And that was always his thing for me, and he still says it to this day to me.
We are starting the Jimmy V Foundation for Cancer Research. And its motto is, don't give up, don't ever give up. And that's what I'm going to try to do every minute that I have left.
Both my mom and dad worked hard to support our family. I remember a time when my dad drove at least 2 to 3 hours every day to commute to a job in South Charlotte, just to support us, and he would travel a lot with that job. My mom had to work a full-time job throughout my childhood. She wasn't able to stay at home with my brothers and me. When we were pregnant, we knew we wanted something different for our children. We wanted to make those sacrifices in order for me to stay at home with our children, and we did that, and we've been able to do that for 5 years now. And we thought about this as we were thinking about this video and how to share this with you guys, but if each generation builds upon the last, then the next is only going to be that much better. So that is our goal, to build upon each generation and to share that with our kids.
One of the main objectives that we have for Holy City Family is to teach our children and the next generation how to budget, save money, and invest it wisely. Our children are still a bit young. We have 3 under 5, so they're not quite there yet, but we do have plans to incorporate this into our homeschool curriculum and just to give them a financial education. And the funny thing is, although Amber and I both went to college and we got really good scores and had high GPAs, we surprisingly learned very little about financial literacy and financial education. So we pretty much had to teach ourselves a lot of these things. And I know a lot of our friends and family members feel the same way. So that's something that we want to remedy for future generations.
So a majority of my career was spent in the public school system. I was a high school teacher and a classroom technology facilitator for 7 years. And then after that, I also worked for a nonprofit organization for a couple years before we had our first child. And then after that, I retired.
Yeah.
Weird to say, but I did. And I became a stay-at-home mom. And what's crazy in all of that, I never made over $35,000 a year.
And then I was a business development manager and project manager for a small IT company for 15 years. And during that time, my salary averaged $75,000 a year.
So from day one, Jared maxed out his 401k, even when he was only making $35,000 a year after he graduated from college. And that money was invested in various mutual and index funds. One of the first steps that we took was paying off our student loans. Jared and I both paid them off within the first 2 to 3 years out of college. Then Jared came to me with the idea that he wanted to retire early, that was his goal, before 40. That was the number.
Yeah, that's true.
And at first, I honestly didn't think it was possible. I couldn't see past what the world tells you and what school tells you and just what you know to be true.
Yeah.
But then I know his drive and I know his determination, and I saw that and I knew that, okay, I believe him, I trust him, I know he's going to get us there. He made budgets every month and we followed them. He did all the research on the stock market. He learned how to invest from square one. You didn't know really anything before.
No,
you really taught yourself.
I didn't go to school for that or anything.
Yeah, it's amazing all that you've learned in the past 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
over the course of that. And to be honest, it all seemed a little crazy. We had to say no to buying drinks, eating out, buying fancy things, going on these elaborate vacations. I know it seemed weird probably to our friends and to other people, but that was just a sacrifice that we knew we had to make in order to achieve this point in our life.
Yeah, it was hard to have the money in our bank accounts, so to speak, and then to not spend it. And a lot of times we probably had a lot more money saved up than our friends and peers. So it was really hard to make that sacrifice and to not keep up with them and to say no.
And to not feel weird. But we did it.
We did. So about 9 years ago, we took a mission trip to Nicaragua, and it changed our perspective on life. It probably just changed our life as a whole. But we were so shocked to see how people in the world were living in poverty, how many different people were living in, and exactly seeing it firsthand is different than reading about it or seeing it on TV. And these people had little to no income, and they were just kind of scraping by. We left feeling compelled to be better stewards with what we had, what we've been given, and to be more grateful for what we have in general. So when we returned from that trip, we took a hard look at our cost of living and we made some major adjustments to our spending. In 2012, we made our first monthly budget in Excel. We actually checked that out before the video and we looked at it. It was pretty bad, pretty basic, but
it worked.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it
showed
worked.
us what we were overspending on and what we,
yeah.
like where we could dial back
It
on.
was very impactful, but it was just like a basic Excel budget. We later upgraded to Mint, which is a free budget tracking app.
And we've mentioned that in previous videos
Yeah,
too.
that's right. We've mentioned that a lot, and it's just been so helpful for us. We started aggressively paying off our debt. We started cutting costs, saving money, investing it, and we even downsized our house and sold our boat and 2 jet skis. We took it pretty seriously.
A lot of people think that you have to have at least a 6-figure income to reach FIRE, but that was not the case for us, as you've heard our numbers in the past. Once Jared and I got the idea in our head to reach financial independence, we wanted to do everything we could to reach our goal as soon as possible. In addition to our budgeting, saving, and investments in the stock market, we slow flipped houses that we were living in for profit. And in our last 3 houses in the Charlotte area, we made over $150,000 in profit. By slow flipping, we mean that it wasn't your traditional house flipping strategy. We renovated the houses that we were living in, and we did it over the course of a couple years on average.
Yeah, and we did the work ourselves
Yeah.
too. So once the wheels started turning, we started saving up to 70% of our income, which is just shocking, and then investing it. It's been amazing to watch our savings grow over the years and our investments, and it really encouraged us and showed us that this FIRE movement and achieving FIRE could actually happen for us. In 2019, we moved from Charlotte, North Carolina in a 26-foot U-Haul that I drove.
Filled to the brim.
Yeah, it was not so much fun driving it. We rented an apartment for 2 years, which at the time we didn't realize we'd be there for 2 years.
Right.
But unlucky for us, shortly after we did that and we moved here, the pandemic hit in 2020. I think we lived here for about 7 months, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. So
Right.
it really brought our lives to, like
A halt.
everyone, a screeching halt. And the build process for the house that we're living in now was 14 months. So it took
It should have been 6.
Yeah, but the pandemic caused major delays in the Charleston area, and so it just took a lot longer than we thought. So just imagine living in an apartment with
2 dogs, 3
Yeah.
kids. Well, we were 2 kids, then we got pregnant, and it was on the 3rd floor, no elevator, all stairs.
yeah, it's fun.
But grateful that we had a place to live. Like we had somewhere
Oh
where we
yeah,
could.
yeah. During the process of looking for houses, at first we didn't know that we were going to build. We thought we might buy something, but we just wanted to mention that we always kept resale value at top of mind. And we looked at our house. We've looked at our houses, the last several houses, as investments, not only as a house that we live in, but also as an investment.
Right.
And we made sure that the neighborhood, the amenities, the upgrades that we did, the design elements would be appealing as possible to future home buyers. Then we fast forward to now, and our house is worth $220,000 more than what we paid for it just a short time ago. It's also nice to have our money spread out, not just in the stock market, to also have it in real estate.
Right.
And the Charleston market is particularly stable, and it's very hot right now, as a lot of places in the U.S. are with the pandemic. When I decided to leave my 9-to-5 job, only those closest to me really had a clue that I was planning on retiring early. You know, it's not really the kind of thing that you want to mention to your boss or coworkers that you're planning this, or when you're doing a performance review. It's not exactly what a boss would want to hear when they talk about your 5-year plan that, you know,
You're gonna retire.
yeah, you're planning on retiring early. And also at the same time, you want to make sure that you have the job. You don't want to tell people beforehand and then not have the job. So we wanted to make sure that we were good and ready before we played that card. It came as a shock to my coworkers and clients that I'd worked with for years. They really couldn't believe how much effort we put into FIRE and how much money we had managed to save up over this period of time. That being said, it was hard leaving a place that I'd been at for 15 years, and it certainly was not an easy decision to give up that safe, reliable income.
When we had our first child 5 years ago in February, we chose to have me stay at home with her and our future children. I never knew anything different other than going into work early or into school early, so it was a complete adjustment for me. At the time, I was working as an event planner for a nonprofit organization, and when I told them that I would be leaving to pursue being a stay-at-home mom and a homeschool educator, lucky for me, I had nothing but encouragement from the founders and the management team. When we started having kids 5 years ago, I started to get more on board with FIRE. I started to see Jared's vision. I started to understand the reasons behind it, the goal. Although he dragged his feet for several years on having kids, by the time we hit,
That's true.
by the time he hit 30, we were both 100% set on having children. It wasn't an accident, but a very deliberate and purposeful part of our life. Not only that, but we both wanted to homeschool them. So that's kind of like our nucleus. Like, we didn't want to use daycare. We wanted to cherish that time that we have with them, that little time that goes so quickly, like we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, when they're little.
So raising our children in our own way is where Jared and I really come together as a couple, and it's where we draw our strength from every day. So I've always been grateful for Jared because he doesn't let the world define him. He has a determination like no other human being that I've ever met. To be honest, I did have fears of not accomplishing this goal, but Jared, being the visionary that he is, I trusted the process that he created, and I knew that this was going to be a great idea for our family. This was like the best thing that we could give our kids and future generations.
I'm really grateful for Amber because she was willing to live differently and follow our vision. And I don't know many people in my life that would have been willing to do that.
Those fears then subsided and became visions of a future different from the norm. We budgeted our money and invested it. We lived beneath our means, and we weren't trying to keep up with the Joneses. We weren't trying to do what everyone else was doing.
And when we look back over the life of our relationship, it's really a wonderful thing to look back and see all that we've accomplished together. And neither of us could have done this on our own. One of my weaknesses is focus. And having great focus is considered to be a strength by most people, but for me, I get laser focused on goals, and I start to neglect other aspects of my life. Amber helps keep me balanced so that I don't neglect those other areas like raising our children, staying fit, being healthy.
Jared helps me think outside the box and gives me courage to do things differently. He pushes me to be different than just the norm. A majority of my life, I tried to fit in. I often compared myself to the world, and Jared reminds me that there is a different, less traveled path to happiness.
9 years ago, we got married in Charleston, and it's a place that we always vacation once or twice a year, and it's just a place that we've always loved ever since the first time we visited Charleston years ago. We've always had it in our plans to retire here, but we just didn't know exactly when that would be. At one point, we thought we would retire later on in our life when our kids were grown up and they had lived in the Charlotte area. And then our investments and things just kind of started growing faster than we anticipated, and we saved. Maybe we got a little better at saving than we thought we would. And all of a sudden, we just felt like we had this opportunity to move while our kids were young and to not have to wait until we were older and they were older. And so they could enjoy this area and go to the beach on their birthdays and during the week and just grow up in this place and not have it be the place that their parents retire in someday in the future. Now that we're retired, it's great to be able to take full advantage of the beach, especially. And the cool thing is that when we go to the beach, we usually go at the opposite time of when a normal person would go to the beach. We go Monday through
at 9 a.m. or 10.
We'll go Monday through Friday when everybody else is at work. And if it's a busy time, we usually don't go. And if it's a holiday, we avoid the beach. And just in general, when we go out and do things, we're able to avoid rush hour traffic. We can go to downtown Charleston when it's not so busy. We try to avoid really Saturday and Sunday like the plague. And we just try to do everything during the week when everybody else is busy.
And all of that with no work meetings, no calls. So it's really just the ability to have that time to focus on that time.
Yeah. True flexibility.
Say, what do you say? Say it again. Okay, now jump. And with that, we wake up in the morning to a slower morning. I mean, as slow as you can get with 3 kids under 5. But we're able to have breakfast together, take a walk together, and we usually end up at the playground. So it's nice to have Jared experiencing those moments that I used to have by myself. So it's nice that, both of us are there and the kids have both of us. We come back and we start our school activities for the day. We have lunch together and all that without any meetings or any calls that interrupt. So to us, FIRE means running to something and not from something. Being able to spend more time with each other and with the kids, quality time, not just time, but quality time, and being fully present and experiencing them growing up over the course of that. Ultimately, we want to leave a legacy for our children and those future generations.
We also want people to know that there is another path to a more fulfilling life, a different kind of life. And it's amazing, along our journey, there's been so many people that have doubted us and doubted that anyone could accomplish this. And they'd usually give us a list of excuses as to why they couldn't do it, or they didn't make enough money, or they had too many expenses, or this and that. And we want to lead by example and show people that if we can do it with our $75,000 average income and 3 young kids, that anyone can do it.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video all the way to the end and sharing all these little special moments with us. If you liked it, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel and join us as we learn, save, and grow together.
Thanks, guys.
All of our videos are for informational purposes only and do not constitute financial advice. Please do your own research. Consult a certified and trusted financial planner who will put your interest above their own before following any advice we may offer.